Dead Space. Dead Space. What is up? This is Jets Chaos. We are here for the Wacky Wednesday show, and we are ready to go. We got the Minnesota Vikings coming up on Sunday. That's right, the Minnesota Vikings. And we will talk all about that right after this. I would regret it if people look back at the first episode and you weren't on it.
Yeah, well, I like that. It's called forward thinking.
One of the worst beats in the world. We do. Our beat is horrible.
Connor could shove that article up his ass.
And then I went to that game and I was like, this is the greatest team I've ever seen in my life. I'm a Jet fan. This is going to be the greatest run ever. Yeah.
No, because if they take Aquanu, I'm not complaining.
Joe Douglas is the king of keeping shit close to the vest.
A 2, a 4, and a 6 for Darnold?
Did the Jets really ruin Sam Darnold? Or did Sam Darnold just suck all along and we were just trying to talk ourselves into it?
And Hamilton is a player who can potentially make a very big impact.
And suddenly here we are today. You can't get rid of him.
Right. It's like a plague.
Joe Douglas was hired because he's not those general managers.
Okay, Luscious.
Somebody is going to fall just like Elijah Moore did, just like Michael Carter did.
You know, what would, if you had one sentence to say to Joe Douglas, what would you say? So you would say, you had me at hello, and then give him a big old wet one right on the smack.
All right, and here we go. Let's say hello to some people in the chat. We got Michael Lando, who's here. He can't stand the Vikings because he doesn't like the horn that blows. I didn't know that happens. They blow some kind of horn. Well, guess what? Just like Sauce Gardner wore that cheese thing on his head, Sauce Gardner will end up walking off the field holding and blowing a horn. Snowball, what's going on? How you doing? Snowball is here. He wants us to run up the stairs and beat the freaking drum. Isn't that funny? Because I didn't see that, and Snowball's thinking the same exact kind of thing. Grandizer, my man, is in the house. He'll be giving you links and telling you how to find everybody that's on the show. He'll be reminding you to do things like hit the like button. So give him love and respect for helping out this channel. Twisted is here. What is going on, Twisted? Likes to break my balls all the time, I'll tell you that much. It's kind of twisted. Talking with Tigo. What's going up, brother? I hope the little boy is doing well. I mean, you want to see a cute little baby boy, you got to see Tigo's son. I mean, they don't make him any cuter than that, people. They just simply don't. We got John, the postman, in the house. Second guest ever on this channel for a Wacky Wednesday show. He has his channel, Pure Adrenaline Sports. That's fantasy football, folks. Fantasy football. If you have a fantasy football team and you want to know who to start, who to play, all that good stuff, you must subscribe to Pure Adrenaline Sports. He's not only on YouTube, he's on that other technology. I keep forgetting the name of it. So you might want to look for him over there. It's good stuff. Johnny G, what's going on? Yes, there is no question. We will talk about Kirk Cousins and how he used us. There's a whole special about it. It's not some kind of fake made-up thing. It's the truth, and we do owe some payback to Kirk Cousins, and I think we're going to get it. Eminon is here. Eminon, one of my OGs all the way back from the day. What's going on, my friends? And we have Harlan. Harlan in the house. What's going up? What's going up? What's going on? C. Thompson is here. What's going up, brother? How you doing? We got, let's see, I think I got everybody, right? I hit everybody? Or did Tigo want to get called out again because he likes getting hit out again? I skipped somebody, and I'll tell you why I skipped them. I skipped them because I'm going to bring him into the show right now, okay? So some people are complaining about all the yelling. Should I do away with the intro? Let me ask my guy. I can see him in the background. Should I do away with the intro? Should I just bring in? Or should I do the intro? Do a thumbs up if you want the intro. You want the intro, right? Screw the people who don't like it. All right, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, you might not like it, but people really like to be introduced like this. This has been my guy for a year now. We are pushing a year anniversary of this being the co-host He's been here from the start. He's my friend from before this channel existed, and he has taken this exciting ride with me. He has brought the trivia. He has brought the stats. He has brought insight. He has made this show what it is. Please welcome the hot dog eating, pizza eating, president of the Virginia Fan Club, the one and only, the man, the greatest co-host in the world! Watson K99. What's up, my brother?
And the New York Jets head west to the land of walleye, to the land of skull, to the land of Prince's gravesite. I can't think of too many other things that Minneapolis and St. Paul are well known for. But one thing they do have is a very potent offense, and the tonic to knock down that high-powered Minnesota offense just might be this New York Jets defense. I believe it is going to be this defense. I can't wait for Sunday to take one more step closer to the AFC playoffs. Jeremy, how you doing tonight, my man? Good to see you.
I'm excited. I would like to be the only team in our division that beats the Vikings. And you know what? I believe we could do it. I'm sorry, Braden. Did I forget about you? What's going on? Braden is our friend from New Zealand, all the way down under from New Zealand. Great friend of the show. Good friend of ours. We love him.
Yeah, I wonder, is Braden happy or is he upset that Australia advanced to the World Cup? I don't know. Do Australia and New Zealand have like a rivalry between them, or because they're kind of down there by themselves and they support each other? You know, I kind of wonder how that works.
We'll have to ask him because, you know, if New Zealand's not in it, you know, that's the closest neighbor. I know I personally, if we're out or if we're not playing them, I root for Mexico.
So I got a word for Italy myself, but they didn't even make the tournament. So.
Well, I push for Italy as well. So there's a few countries I like and I support.
Yeah.
I definitely support. I celebrated when Italy has won. My best friend's Italian, and I was raised by, you know, a second family that's Italian. So definitely love Italy. I support them. I support Mexico. And we're unfortunately we're there. We've had to play them this year, but you know, typically I support England as well because I'm a big fan of Liverpool. So I know some of the players. I watched the Premier League, so you know they're like kind of like fourth back there. But like Mexico and Italy, I do root for. And I am wondering if he supports. A good question. We'll find out if he supports.
Yeah, he's growling, so I'm guessing this is a no.
Oh, okay.
I kind of got a little love for Argentina and for Ecuador because I've spent time in both of those countries. I actually got to play soccer against a bunch of guys in Ecuador, just you know, regular schlubs off the street, and my gosh, we all played on a basketball court. It was pretty amazing. So yeah, I got a love for Ecuador and Argentina too.
Okay. Well, we start off right with a question. Hey, this is a good question. I admittedly have been very busy at work this week.
Okay.
Very busy, doing all kinds of great fun things, but busy. So I have not been keeping up with like the injury thing. I know that we picked up a guy that was cut by Arizona. I looked at the stats. He's played in a lot of games, but he's only taken like 9 snaps in his career. Anyway, they've signed him to the practice squad, and I think a lot of eyebrows went up and said, "Why are the Jets bringing in another running back into camp? What's going on?" James Robinson didn't play. It was a surprise inactive last week. And then Michael Carter, you know, they're claiming it's a low ankle. But I don't know what's going on. Tell me what's going on. Is James Robinson going to play? Is Michael Carter going to play?
So we haven't heard too much. Now, here's what my vibe on Michael Carter is. He did not practice today. They say they're taking it day to day. My initial instinct is they keep Carter out of this game. This is not, you don't need a Russian ankle back. Not when you have the depth that the Jets have at the running back position. And besides, you want him ready for that game at Buffalo, you know, because you want to have as healthy a roster as you can. For 1 week, I think we can agree that Bam Knight, Ty Johnson, and James Robinson can carry the load. Jay, my belief is James Robinson will be active for the game. But you ask a different question, will he play? I think Robinson will get his will get his carries, but I got to tell you, I hope Bam Knight gets the lion's share of the carries. But I expect kind of like a an old school three-headed monster with the Jets running back attack this Sunday at US Bank Stadium.
Okay, and
And I will say, and Robinson also, I should mention,
yeah,
I
what
should
about
point
Robinson?
this out. He did level a few complaints today. Things like, I didn't come here to get traded and take a DNP. Basically expressing his frustrations regarding his playing time and not being active this past Sunday.
Oh, so it
Well,
was an injury.
you know what? I don't believe it was an injury. I think it was just general soreness, and they're not seeing the explosiveness or the burst from him that they saw from Bam Knight on Sunday. I mean, you and I both could see it. Everybody in this chat could see it because we all have functioning eyeballs. Bam Knight was catching the ball out of the backfield. He was blocking. He had quicker steps than we've seen James Robinson have. There were rumors when the Jets made the trade, he was coming in with a little bit of knee soreness. And I can't say, while I like his power and I like some of James Robinson's abilities, he hasn't been running what I would call smoothly. Even in the game against Buffalo, that last drive, it was a little bit awkward. It didn't look like he was all systems go. And I think this week, Robert Saleh saw more of the same. And it's not a different principle than what we saw with Zach Wilson. Coach Saleh is going to play the players who best give the Jets a chance to win a game. You saw it at the quarterback position, and I think it was the exact same principle at the running back. Bam Knight got his opportunity, and you saw the results.
It's interesting that he's complaining and not just like going with the flow of saying my knee definitely is sore. Let me get myself healthy. Let me get myself healthy. Like, why rush back? Why want to keep playing in pain and not be as good? Why not take a week, take 2 weeks, get healthy again, explode in practice, show them that you're ready to go, win the position, win the carries. These guys that don't want to do that, they hurt themselves because it's like you don't forget that when you have guys that whine and complain about playing, it's like you have to earn it. And it's surprising to me to hear that he complained because the way Bam Knight played, I wouldn't be mouthing off and complaining. I'd be rededicating myself to working hard and finding a way to win the right to play. Because when a guy comes out and plays that well, the last thing you should do is come out and bitch and complain about not playing, and maybe it was a disagreement. Maybe they felt, look, you're not the same because of the knee. You need to rest it. And he didn't agree because he wants to play. Now, the Jets do get some kind of benefit from him not playing. If he doesn't get 600 something yards, they pay a lesser price for him, right? With the trade market, it's a fifth instead of the fourth. So there might be some motivation there, do you think?
Very true. And it's actually, so just to explain the contract situation a little bit more, we already know the Jets traded a conditional 6 to get J-Rob here. Now, he's amassed 415 yards for the season. It's 600 yards total. So he is only 185 yards away from that 6th-round pick becoming a 5th-round pick. That's about 31. It's 31 yards a game. That's not a whole heck of a lot. So I would not be surprised if the benching had a little bit to do with that. I know a 6th-round pick to a 5th-round pick doesn't sound like the biggest deal in the world, but you know what? It very well could make a difference. So, yeah, I definitely think this is contract motivated. I don't think it's about his health as only. I think health is just one aspect. I think the contract, the way that's drawn up, had a lot to do with the benching. And I would not be surprised to see him take, again, I think he's going to be active. If I had to bet on one player being active, Robinson or Carter this week, I really think it's going to be J-Rob. But I think he's going to be the 3rd running back on this team. I would put maybe goal line. You would think goal line situations, but you know what? Bam Knight, I think, could do that even better than James Robinson could ever do it. After one game, man, I'm ready to get the Knight jersey. In fact, it's going to say Bam on the back. Just like you all talk about, you all want your little Sauce One jerseys? That's cute. I'm getting a Bam jersey.
It's interesting. It's rare to see to have a running back come in and play in their first game and perform so well, especially after not making the top 3. We even risked losing him to another club. He had a clear before we could even put him on the practice squad. He could have been poached. So this guy was vulnerable from being snatched up for quite some time. So we could have lost him, and I was shocked he wasn't drafted. I thought he'd be a fourth, fifth round draft pick, honestly.
I did too.
So, yeah, it's interesting that he wasn't picked. It's interesting that he wasn't poached and that he survived this whole thing and that he's ours. And I'll tell you, I know it's to go by one game, and I know it wasn't against the greatest run defense, but if you watched him play, it's like not going to sit here and I'm not going to say he is a future star, definitely like Benji, but I'll say maybe. Like, there's no reason to think he can't be because plenty of running backs come and again, we thought he'd be drafted in the later rounds, and there are tons of running backs who have been drafted in the later rounds, even undrafted, that have come and had great careers in the NFL and no experience first game. I don't care who the defense is. It's impressive what he did. So let's keep our fingers crossed. Because can you just imagine what if he is this special player? Now you could say next year we're gonna have Brees Hall, we're gonna have Michael Carter, and we're gonna have this kid who's gonna be like, and then we'll probably not hold him because he's not gonna be happy anyway. But you have this guy James Robinson. We can control him for next year. But if Bam is the real deal, and if they believe Brees is coming back fine, and Michael Carter, of course, gets healthy, and he's Michael Carter, and after watching Ty Johnson, be pretty explosive, and we know they love him, is there any point in keeping James Robinson around based on the way things are unfolding?
I think it really comes down to Brees' health. And I don't think you can rush him back from the ACL injury. But I'll tell you what, when you have these other players, you don't have to rush Brees back. Because you have different running backs with all these different skill sets. It's like if you're in a band and you have like two different guitar players, typically you want one guitar player who's very technical and one who's a little bit more rhythmic and has more of that heart and soul. A lot of the best bands are that way. The Eagles, Def Leppard, Aerosmith, on and on I could go. It's the same philosophy here with the running backs. You want the different talents because that gives you different ways of running your offense. And this is an offense, again, that wants to be run focused first. The Jets are all about the running game. When they run the ball well, they win. We've talked about it. It's not complicated. And we saw it again this past Sunday against the Bears. So to me, yeah, I want to see where I think Brees is going to recover just fine, but I am in no rush to bring him back quickly. I guess you could tender Robinson because he is an RFA, but Ty Johnson, he just keeps hanging around, and you give him credit. He had a good game. I got to give him credit. We saw good Ty Johnson this week.
What could you tender him with? Like, what do you think is
I think
realistic?
it's I thought it was a pretty low value. I think it was like a 6-round pick. It was a pretty low value. It wouldn't be much money at all. Because
right.
If we have Bam Knight, Robinson's replaceable because Bam fulfills that role.
I'm sorry, I thought we got to choose. I thought we could choose to tender him with like a.
That's right. That's right, because he has the 6. He was acquired for a 6, which become a 5th, and then it could be the different trade value tenders, which I don't believe would have been released just yet. So
right, but
we'll have to see.
If we got too greedy, the teams aren't going to give up too high of a pick because it's a running back. I mean, we got Michael Carter in the 4th round. So how high of a draft pick is a team going to be willing to give up to bring in James Robinson, who has the questionable knee?
I can't imagine it's going to be enormous.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. But anyway, if he sticks around, it's fine with me. But not if he's mouthing off. He's certainly not worth that. He's not worth being a locker room distraction. Wouldn't you say? I wouldn't go for that in a second. We don't need him at all compared to like the kind of poison that could be for a locker room.
It was funny when Elijah Moore did something similar. It became like a national story. It was Jets fans. A good portion of Jets Nation was, I want to trade him. He's done. He's never going to be – he can't do anything productive for this team again. Get out of there while you're ahead. Maybe you can get the 2nd-round pick back that you originally drafted with him now. Well, that's kind of subsided, I think it's fair to say. J-Rob did something rather similar, and it's barely crickets. It's barely crickets. Like, there's several newspapers that have not even run a story about it. The only reason I knew anything about it is because I got an ESPN fantasy alert about the James Robinson complaining. So it's one of those things that I think is going to blow over, but it's not about to upset this locker room.
Yeah, I mean, hey, look, maybe it's maybe it's just got to do with the fact, like, we freaked out because of Elijah, because Elijah means something. We invested a lot in him. We believe in him, so it hurt more. Whereas if this guy wants to complain, it's like, who the hell is this? Just like, okay, get out of here. Go kick, or as as Dom C would say, go kick rocks.
Go pound sand, whatever the case may be.
Scott Luchinger comes in and says, you got to earn it. That's right. You earn your carries. I assume that's what you're talking about. You know what I mean? So, and he's saying Bam has been here all season and is talented. Earn it. That's right. If why would you expect the Jets to hand you the ball and give you a chance to play if Bam Johnson played the way he played? Like, you have to, if you're reasonable at all as a player, if you're James Robinson right now, you have to understand, like, dude, we're not going to just give it to you because what you did for a different team or what you've done. It's like, we're looking at a kid who just gave us an incredibly solid game, stepping in his first game ever in a situation where our top two running backs are out. He did a great service for us. And guess what? We're not just going to sit him down and pretend it didn't happen, right? So...
Oh boy, yeah, and Bam was one of those guys. I felt the same way. Now, granted, as a fan of NC State sports, of course, I was a little bit higher on him than most players. But one of the reasons, and again, I'll call myself out. I can admit when I'm off on something. I was not interested in taking a Breece Hall or a running back that high, particularly trading up for one, because I felt you could get really good value at running back later in the draft with the Dameon Pierce, with a Bam Knight, with a couple of other guys. Well, shoot, the Jets wound up getting Breece and Bam Knight. So they did even better than that. But yeah, again, it goes to show the value that you can get late in the draft. A lot of us were high on him from the beginning, and there are a lot of Jets fans who could even see that when they went to training camp, when they were watching the scrimmages. I'll give you a minute. And they could see the difference that Bam was making.
I was calling him Bam Johnson. So I think.
Yes, you did. I let it go. I caught it, but I can't. Yeah, I can't get you on everything. So, Bam Johnson. He was like a commissioner in baseball in like 1905. He was the American League president. Had a lot of fights with like John McGraw.
The next thing you know, I'm going to be calling him Bam Bam Bigelow.
Bam, bam. The beast from the east. Yep.
Now, Talking Jets with Tico says, he's a restricted free agent. He needs reps for contract. I get it. Yeah, I get it too. Look, there's a difference though, right? It's like, I understand why he wants to play. Like, I get it. He wants to have leverage for a contract. He wants to show that he's good. I get it. But if I'm his agent, this is what I'm saying, right? If I was his agent, I'm like, I get it. Tell them that you're feeling good. Work hard in practice and earn it. Because the only thing that complaining about it publicly does is scare away other teams. Because there are so many teams in the NFL that will not bring you in if they fear that you're going to be a distraction, or you're somebody that's willing to do that. They want, you know what I mean? It's not like they're going to say, well, you can't blame him for doing that. He wanted a contract, because there are teams that won't care. They'll say that, fine, and they bring him in. But there are other teams that would say, no, we want a certain level of professionalism where we know and can trust the player is not going to go public and not bring dirty laundry out of the locker room. Like, fine, run into LaFleur's office, run into the running back coach's office, kick and scream and yell internally, I want to play. What do I got to do? I didn't come here not to play. That's fine. But do not leave the locker room and say it to the media and give them a story and distract and create distractions for the team. So, and we know the Jets, and there are other teams too, that value this kind of thing.
No, it's most definitely the case. You keep the dirty laundry in-house. And to be honest, we have no problem with him feeling the way that he does. Of course he wants to play. Everybody should want to play. You're used to being, he was a lead back not that long ago for Jacksonville, and he was an absolute breakout star. So much to the point that when the Jaguars drafted Travis Etienne, you had a lot of people questioning that draft pick. And one of the main reasons for that was James Robinson had established himself as a 1,000-yard season back. He is that capable of a player. This is not some scrub. Okay, this is a guy who has been productive in the NFL. But if he isn't as healthy as we want him to be, well, then you have to limit his reps or you have to sit him down, not because he did anything wrong or not because he's being a jerk. We're just looking for the most productive players. This is not an evaluation season anymore. We're not playing out the string right now, figuring out who's a meaningful part of the roster going forward. We're trying to make the freaking AFC playoffs, as those words roll off my tongue because they feel so sweet to say. And James Robinson, we would love for you to be a valuable contributor. You've already been a valuable contributor during our victory against Buffalo. But you get healthy, your time will come. It will come again. And then you just have to take advantage of the opportunities when they come your way. Because if you don't, the Jets are deep enough at running back where they'll just go on to the next guy. You have the opportunity, take it.
Yeah, look, just work hard, just earn it. And I'm not angry at the guy. I'm really not. Like I don't argue his point at all. I don't blame him at all for wanting to play. I get it. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with wanting to play and everything, but just, I'm just saying if I was his agent, I'd say, dude, don't get sucked in by the press. Don't let Dick Chibney pull that out of you. Because that's what Dick Chibney does. He wants to create stories. He wants to create controversy. And I'm just saying, if I'm his agent, if I'm James Robinson's agent, I'm saying, look, dude, it's a shitty situation. Because the truth is this kid Bam did a great job. And it's going to be hard for you to get carries and build up your value. But at the same time, you might be compromising your value by complaining about it. So let's get the knee healthy. Let's wait for our opportunity because it'll come. And as soon as that knee's feeling better, just play hard, hardcore. The kid's talented. James Robinson's a good running back. And you know what? Next year might have to be a prove-it year for him. This is the way it is for running backs in the NFL. They're not high-valued guys. They're not going to make big money. They're not going to make long contracts. But he's still young. And if he, maybe because of this, he's going to have to do a prove-it contract next year, a prove-it type deal. And that's fine. Go out and prove it. And that's just the way it is.
Yeah, very well. Yeah, it's definitely true. But I think for this week, it comes down to Michael Carter's ankle. The Jets are not going to activate 4 running backs. So,
yeah.
Hey, SMS and Jay Brown, thanks very much for tuning in to us. Thanks for subscribing to Jeremy. And if you would also check out my channel, I'd appreciate it too.
That's right. That's right. You can check out. Don't forget, if you are enjoying the takes here, it's not just me and my channel. Adam here, we call him Watu-K99, but he's also New York Sports Wicker Media, and that's his channel, and you better check it out. And if you look in the chat, Grandizer will definitely be putting the link up as we talk about it, because that's what he does. So if you want an easy shortcut, the link to Adam's channel will be available throughout the show.
And if you didn't mention Grandizer, I would have in that moment.
Yeah.
And we have to thank him for doing that.
One day I'll get much better about putting this kind of stuff in the description. Twisted is all over me about it. So I do have to update my description so I could tell people to look in the description. But I don't find that works nearly as much as when it's in the chat, and Grandizer just put it in the chat.
Thanks as always, Grandizer. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. So Grandizer was high on Zonovan Bam night as well. I do remember that. I liked him because it's NC State. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I support anybody who plays for NC State. And Adam, you get it because we're down there in that area all the time visiting our moms. So
we don't have the same mom, Chad, just to make that clear. We don't have the same moms.
We have 2 moms, different moms that live within 10 minutes of each other.
Yeah.
And and what's nice is that there's probably going to be a lot of overlap now when I visit, because you'll know I'm visiting and you're close enough to plan a trip. So I'm sure we're going to get to go down and meet up down there again and eat pizza again and do all that fun stuff the next time I go.
Plenty more places to go. I went to an amazing burger spot for the World Cup game this past during Thanksgiving weekend. Whew, fantastic. So that might be another place we got to check out.
Well, you're going to have to share that information because we remember my brother is there. So my brother and my dad loves hamburgers. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I found a good one. Really good one.
Yeah. Cool.
That will be the MVP against Minnesota. I'll tell you what, we're going to talk a whole lot about that game. There's a lot of things to talk about, a whole lot of stats. The matchups are, typically by Wednesday, I'm starting to get a feel for it, but it's really Thursday is the day when I really am able to do research and really get some things that I feel comfortable like saying as far as how I think the game is going to go. So this is sort of like the appetizer. This is sort of the warm up for that in-depth analysis that we love to dish out on these channels.
So one thing I did. Okay, somebody did that. My wife's asking if I'm hungry. I'll get to you in a second. I am going to be hungry, sweetheart. And I don't have any time right now, capacity to think about it. So you're just going to have to take care of it and figure it out for us.
Bro, are you never? Are you ever not hungry? I mean, is this a trick question?
Hi,
Mrs. Jeremy.
I had a little quiche when I got home, but it wasn't a lot of food.
A little quiche. Okay.
A little quiche. It was
a mini quiche. A quichelet. It's like a quichelet.
Anyway, Trin the Great, who I believe I heard on talking the Jets talk on with Ryan on Monday. I think he called in. And I think he also was like a runner-up or won a T-shirt on his channel the next day. So Trin the Great, his name's been popping up all over the place.
Trin the Great, yes.
And he's here with us, so that's cool. You think he'll be the MVP against Minnesota? You know, I wouldn't complain about that. You know, as I've said before, I'm not against or I'm not a hater of any quarterback on our roster. I want to make that clear. I support every quarterback on our roster, all four of them, if you count Streveler. I want all of them to be superstars. I want to have a great quarterback. So I want to preface that so people don't think I'm playing this game of being on a side. I do not stand on any side. My side is whoever's starting for us and wanting them to do well. I'm kind of hoping that Mike White, you know, has a great game, because every great game he has, to me, just puts it in the bank of, oh, he's capable. Because if Zach doesn't rebound like I still hope and pray he will and develop into a great quarterback, I want to just, you know, we just have to keep rooting for every quarterback on our roster, because I don't want to have to refigure out the quarterback position. So just in case, it could be Zach that works out and proves everyone wrong and is the guy that we drafted. It could be Mike White, shocks the world and proves everybody wrong. What I'm for and what I believe and what I'm hoping is that the quarterback of our future, the guy who's capable of winning for us, is on the roster right now. So is that fair enough? I'm not picking somebody. I'm saying I just hope that our quarterback is on the roster, whoever that is. So whoever's playing, I want them to do great, because I want to know that we're going to have a quarterback who could do great. So while I would love it if Knight was the MVP, I wouldn't mind it if our quarterback was the MVP. But as long as we win the game.
Here's my thoughts on this. Mm-hmm. And one of the I guess Twisted was asking, hey, have you been at MIA? Well, I did record 3 videos the other night, one right after another. So I just haven't been in the chats really this week. Haven't had a chance to be on the Monday and Tuesday night shows like I usually am. But part of it is I kind of wanted to let this whole quarterback thing kind of simmer down for a bit. And I feel like that is now a weekly occurrence. Every single week I have to give it about 48 hours, because every week it's just these crazy hot takes on quarterbacks, whether it's Wilson, whether it's White. You know, there's always a few Streveler fans that are always going to be hanging around, which is really funny. But to me at this point, my biggest hope for the season, as far as quarterbacking specifically goes, is we have enough confidence one way or another to know that we have a quarterback that we can invest in for the next 5 years. What will Mike White do going forward? I cannot anoint him. Robert Saleh did the right thing when he was asked, are you ready to commit to Mike White as your starting quarterback for the rest of the season? I was glad he said no. He played one game, played a great game, against a bad defense. Now, he did what he had to do. That was fantastic. Minnesota's got a horrible pass defense, but they can get after the quarterback a little bit. Okay, but also you're playing on the road now in a very loud stadium. That's going to add a little bit of some extra dimensions to it. But to me, the real test is Buffalo, because we saw how Buffalo absolutely laid waste to him last season. So I know the easy thing to do is to have the hot takes to be extreme on one side or the other, but you gotta keep gathering information week by week. This is why you can't call a player a bust after a season and a half. If this was the attitude, a lot of us would have said Quinn Williams was a bust after year 2, or at best an average player, but definitely not a player who lived up to his draft position. Now he's changing that narrative. So it is possible that players can keep getting better as time goes on. But but you got to put but you definitely stick with Mike White for the foreseeable future. And I would say the Chicago game brought him a little bit extra cushion. One bad game should not put Zach Wilson in the lineup. That's, I think, the biggest thing I took out of it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think the beautiful part about these kind of debates and this thing is we're going to know. Everything will answer itself. The future is going to tell us if Zach Wilson's the guy. The future is going to tell us if Mike White is not as good as he looked and was just one game or two, like all these questions will be answered. It's like we're in such a rush to predict and predict and predict, but the reality is it's all going to unfold. Unless the world blows up tomorrow, it's all going to unfold. We're going to know all the answers in time. I just hope they both are superstars in the future. One of them might have to be at another team, but I wish them both the best to be superstars. I just want to make sure that we have our quarterback. That's all I care about.
And we're still getting James Robinson feedback. Here's one thing that I just found out. He was actually told Wednesday he was not going to play. This was not the weekend. This was days in advance they knew they were going to do this.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't know if you heard the banging in the background, but I think my wife might be taking the house down.
Oh, Mrs. Jeremy laying waste to the house.
I'm just hearing boom diddy boom, like loud thunderous noises, which makes me think she tried to, because you know how pot drawers work, right? You have a big space counter where you shove all your pots, and then when you try to pull the one you need out, all the pots come flying down.
It's like the last scene from Uncle Buck.
Which makes me think that my wife might be planning on making pasta.
I think pasta plus a turkey plus a casserole. I hope you all got multiple ovens in that house.
Frank Schultz, Dan's 40-time company. Yeah, you can't always go so much by the some running backs could be great different ways. Some are great because they're super fast. Some are slow but good because they're power backs, and some are in the middle. And it's just, do they have the other attributes and the other strengths, right? To, to be elusive. And so, yeah, I mean, that a 4.58 doesn't scare me as like too slow to be successful in the NFL. I'm glad that he looks faster. And I think that's a good point.
And there's different types of fast. Just
right. I was going to say there's 40 track speed, and then there's NFL football playing speed.
Right, like running in a straight line versus like running like the shuttle drills or the agility, running side to side.
And how explosive.
Fast versus quick. Those are two different types.
And
of
acceleration, initial burst, like being able to stop, change direction, and burst. Like that's a different measurement than just pure speed. So, we have some guys who are great examples of that. Guys who could stop and then burst and have great speed. Garrett Wilson, being one for sure. Who that's what I loved about him in college, is the ability to like stop or slow down, get the defender to jump or to bite, and then take off, and explode.
Yeah, that's true. And I think maybe my favorite Bam stat. A lot of people are, talking deservedly about the yards from scrimmage, how we set a Jets rookie record. He actually led the all NFL running backs last week with 9 missed tackles forced. That's awesome, because we talk about our running backs and how slippery they are, like how Carter can get these extra yards, Brees the same way. Bam does it just as well as they do. Bam is awesome at getting those few extra yards that could turn maybe a 3rd and 5 into like a 3rd and 3. Those little things can make such a difference. Dan, thanks for the super chat, Daniel Files. We appreciate it.
Thanks for the super chat. Just want to remind everybody, like everybody else does, Jake Asman, all the other guys. I'm not going to steal their lines of skip to the line, but I'll say as this show gets more and more people and the chat gets more and more crazy, it's impossible to highlight everyone. but I do obviously guarantee that we will highlight any super chat. So if you want to make sure that your comment gets read, you could do a super chat, or you could just do it because you like to donate to the channel. I also try to always make sure I include any member of the channel in our conversations as much as I can. If you want to know about that, if you go to the homepage, there's a button called join, and you could join and become a snacker. And for the cost of a few dollars a month, you could just a few dollars a month, you could be one of the sponsors of the channel. Helps keep the channel going, keeps a nice, safe, consistent amount of cash flow to pay for the subscriptions and all the other costs of running this channel. And you could be different types of snackers and get different things. If you ever become a super snacker, if anyone ever becomes a super snacker, you basically own the channel. You can come onto the show. You could be my boss. Tell me what to do. And if you look at the cost of becoming a super snacker, you'll understand why. Daniel Fowles, thank you so much. Let's read what you got to say. With patience, White and Zach could both succeed. You never know.
They could, but not on the same team.
No.
You can only play one quarterback at a time. But yes, I understand your point. But could both be legitimate starting NFL quarterbacks? Yes, I do believe they absolutely could be.
Yeah.
But I wonder, but Zach, we don't really know what his ceiling is. Now, we've seen the floor. Okay, but I think we can, even the biggest Zach haters out there can at least acknowledge the kid has not played up to what his talent reflects. But with Mike White, are we seeing the best of Mike White right now? We've seen what he can do, but can he do it, consistently? So White's a little bit older. We feel like we have a better feel on what kind of quarterback he can be. But Jeremy, do you think that we're seeing that we could see this, what we saw against Chicago? Do you think that's something we could see consistently going forward from Mike White?
Well, I'm not going to say we can't. I'm not, and I'm also not going to guarantee we will. I think that he's played 5 games, so we just don't know. I know it's hard to get over the bias of when he was drafted, that he was cut by teams, but reality is I've watched a lot of his tape in college. Now, I'm a guy who does that. I run back and watch. I never watched stuff on him. Even last year, I was too lazy. I never believed it was going to last, so I didn't bother. This year, I finally said, you know what? I'm going to start watching this kid. Who is this kid? And I started watching. He is very good at, first of all, he stays very calm. It's almost like that's a hard thing. Like, he could stay in the pocket and he's very calm. He keeps his composure. He gets rid of the ball quickly. So he's very decisive. He's able to make decisions very quickly and very decisively. He is accurate. Probably not as much. I did notice even in the film for college, people, like, someone used an example of a play that actually was the opposite of their intention. They said, look, he could throw the deep ball. And if you really watch, the receiver had to practically stop. So it wasn't a good example of a deep ball. It was actually very bad. But everything that he throws within 20 yards is dimes, or, like, very accurate, very good. He knows how to really adjust the speed of the ball to make it easier for the receivers. It's not a coincidence that you don't see as many drops. There is something called touch, and he has touch. Now, he did it against the Bears. He did it against the Bengals last year, but that was kind of a surprise. They didn't know he was coming. So there are concerns. There are things that people can argue, obviously, but none of it is evidence that he can't be great. None of it. Like, just because it was Chicago and they have a weak defense doesn't mean he can't be great. It just means he has more to prove. But it's not evidence against him, because the reality is, as banged up as they were, we don't know that how many quarterbacks would have had that kind of a game against Chicago, as even if they were weak. He still had the best quarterback rating of any quarterback in the NFL this season in a game, which is pretty impressive. I'm, like I said before, I'm just hoping for the best. I'm hoping he can be this good. Now, people bring up the interceptions he had against Buffalo. I do want people to understand and know we were down like 24-3 or something like that before he started throwing those interceptions. So Saleh even said, admittedly, they started pressing and taking risks and doing things they wouldn't normally do in a competitive game. and we got some interceptions out of it. So that's a little bit more digestible than it was a 0-0 game against Buffalo, and he threw an interception. And then it was a 7-0 game. We're trying to come back, and he threw an interception. It wasn't like that. He was starting to press and push the ball. So look, I think it's unwritten. We don't know. Everybody can claim to know. We don't know. I know what his strengths are. I know what his limitations are. It looks like there are some limitations on the deep ball. I just want to see. If he plays, I want him to be great. If he's not great and we bring Zach back, then I want Zach to be great. It's real simple. Whoever we play, I want them to be great. And where I stand for Mike White is I'm not going to run around and say he's a future star. But I'm also not going to run around and say it's impossible that he might not end up being a really good quarterback, because I don't think either one could be proven without just time. You know what I mean?
I do, and hello in the background.
Yeah, okay.
That one came through loud and clear. Yeah, I guess the biggest thing that I'm thinking about is what's it going to take for Zach to get back on the field. Like, here's the thing. If White has 2 lousy games in a row, not saying I think it's going to happen, but if it does happen, would they go back to Zach or would they go to Flacco?
Well, it depends on what Zach looks like in practice. Because
it's interesting. Yeah, I mean,
I think it might be
knows?
worse than we think.
It very well could be. I definitely think, though, like, he's definitely faced the team. He's addressed them. He's admitted he was wrong, and that definitely that message has definitely been received as we would want it to be. Okay, so from what all things being said, he seems to have been very sincere. That's good. Now it's a matter of him figuring out what he needs to do in order to have better performances on Sundays when that opportunity does come for him again, and it will. Whether here or whether with another team. But Zach Wilson will definitely be playing in the NFL again. You know, the story is absolutely not closed on Zachary Capono Wilson.
What can we say his whole name?
Yeah, I decided to say his whole name on that one. Yeah,
I believe he's going to get an opportunity. It's hard to imagine he won't. I don't know how it will happen. You know, again, I don't want it to be because Mike White plays bad. Maybe Mike White gets banged up. You know, like, I mean, just who knows what will, you know, how it's going to happen, or maybe it'll be next year, or maybe they'll be on a different team. I mean, but the world's not going to turn their back and write off Zach Wilson and from ever having an opportunity again. There just wasn't enough for that to happen unless that little breakdown, because there are people saying he had the yips, he had this. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's possible he never recovers. I don't know. I don't expect that. He seems like a tough kid. He seems like a smart kid. I think he's gonna, like, you know, he's gonna have an opportunity. It's just gotten to a point where we don't know for sure anymore what's gonna happen. But I agree with you. I mean, the one thing my brother's put out 3 videos about this already, and he's made it clear in all 3 videos that, and I agree with it 100%. There's no way they're taking Mike White out if he continues to play like this. I'm not saying it's likely he'll continue to play like this. I'm just saying if he does, they're not taking him out. You can't take a guy out that's playing like this. Like, if he goes into Minnesota, and I know this is a big if, I'm not claiming he's going to, because I know it was 1 game. But if he went into Minnesota and had over 70% completion rate, if he has touchdowns and no interceptions, if he has 300 plus yards, if he has 100 plus quarterback rating, there's no way they're sitting him out the next week. It's just, right. I mean, it's
not
just,
a chance.
would do that. No team would do that. It's impossible.
No. And this Minnesota defense, this past defense is allowing 276 yards per game, the worst in the league. This is a beat-up secondary. You know, all the credit in the world to the Vikings, and especially to Kevin O'Connell, their coach, for getting them to 9-2. But they're really doing it with just a couple things. An explosive offense. We all know what Justin Jefferson is. Plus, when you have Adam Thielen, you have Dalvin Cook, and you add T.J. Hawkinson into the mix, that's pretty darn good. But The other thing that they do really well is they have a very high turnover margin. They're third best in turnover margin in the league, only behind, I believe it's Baltimore and Philadelphia. They're +6 in turnovers. That is really what they do. And the Vikings are finding ways to win close games. That's probably the best stat to describe what they're doing. They are, I believe it's 8-0 in one-score games this year. But then the Jets are the best fourth quarter team in football by far. So I give the Vikings a lot of credit for being able to win these games that they've been able to win. And I've been happy they've been able to win the games that they have. I mean, beating New England, beating Buffalo in that just unbelievable game that none of us, whoever watched it, will ever forget. But now it's time to go anti-skull. We were strange bedfellows for a couple of weeks, Vikings fans, but that is over now.
So C. Thompson comes in. Thank you for the super chat, my friend. I appreciate it. Very nice of you to do this. Again, we really appreciate it when you do. And C. Thompson comes in and says, we are in a stupid situation here. Are we good enough to move forward, or are we going to die on the vine? You know, I've been around long enough to know that when the train is going good with tons of momentum and things are going well, I've learned never to get too comfortable, never to get too cocky, because that train could come to a screeching halt. So all we could do, and all I do, is I root for my team, and I hope to God they keep it rolling. I feel like the Minnesota Viking game is a very winnable game for the reasons that Adam was talking about. The fact that they give up 276 yards passing, like anytime a team, I don't care what their record is questionable on defense, they could be beat. Just like any team with a great defense, the Jets, can win any game. When you have a great defense, you're in every game. When you have a bad defense, you're at risk every game. So that's why it's impossible not to believe, I think if you know anything about football, whether you're a Jet fan or not, that the Jets have a really good chance in this game. This is a very winnable game because we're coming in with an excellent defense and they're coming in with a questionable defense. So now you say 276 yards a game. One thing I'll be looking at Mike White is let's see if he goes under or over that average. That's kind of an interesting question. Would you take the under or over on Mike White?
Wow. I believe I would. I got to think this one over. So Minnesota's supposed to get a couple of cornerbacks back. Cameron Dantzler, Caleb Evans, who's been in concussion protocol. He's supposed to be back. Andrew Booth is going to be out for a while. But outside of Patrick Peterson, the Vikings cornerbacks have been kind of a revolving door, and that's really been their issue. Players the Jets could target would be like a Duke Shelley, number 20, who's been struggling quite a bit. Chris Boyd, number 29. Those are some guys that I'd be watching for. I think the Jets and the Vikings play a lot of cover two. That is the way that they really prefer to play. So it's a pretty predictable scheme. But I think one thing that we saw last week that Mike White did as well as he did, more so than Zach, I thought this was one of the big differences. He wasn't locked in on one player. He was able to look off 2, 3 receivers and find the right one. And I think this Vikings defense is going to leave some holes. There's going to be opportunities for him to deliver the ball. Now you've got another week of Corey Davis. He's got his field back. Elijah Moore's got his confidence. Garrett Wilson is who he is. And I'll tell you what, Ty Conklin, it's the Ty Conklin revenge game, my friend. I think they're going to be looking to get to Tyler Conklin when they're getting down towards the end zone. I believe that the Jets in this situation, I think they could hit the over. I don't know if he's going to hit 300, but I think there's a good chance that the Jets could really have a more of a pass-focused offense this week, and I think they could take advantage of the Vikings' depleted secondary. I'm going to take the over, and I feel like it's bold, but I'm taking it.
Yep. I see a really funny comment from Tigo. What's up, we the people? I see you out there. Billy SBC. Just want to call out some names because I can't highlight every chat. Some guy is out there. Good to see everybody. Again, you know how much we appreciate the support. John Nolte, Salty, my good friend, is here. Tigo said something. I'm not finding it where I can highlight it, but he said something that's I'm going to make fun of him a little bit because it's actually kind of funny. He said something about like he goes, Jets should honestly be favorites in this game. This is funny to me. Minnesota is only getting the nod because of record bias, meaning because they have a better record. Jets bias, and the fact that Minnesota is at home. Now, the only point he made here that makes any sense is the Jets bias. Okay, if you're going to argue it's Jets bias, fine. But Tigo, I have to laugh at you and say something. The record of a team and being at home is often part of how they create the spread.
Isn't it like 3.5? Isn't the Vikings by 3.5? That's essentially the home field advantage.
Right. They're saying it's an even game on an even field, even though the Vikings have a better record and have beaten all of our divisional peers. Like, you know what I mean? They beat everybody else in our division. So I'm not disagreeing or saying that we're a heavy underdog. I just think it's funny that his examples are things that, like you're supposed to base some of the spread on home field advantage. You're supposed to base some of the spread on the record of the team, the actual record. Like 9-2, yeah, that's gonna help make you look like a favorite over a team that's 7-4. You're 2 games better than they are in record. He goes 9-2 versus the bottom 10 teams all year. Come on, the 2 teams they actually played, they lost to. That's not true. They beat, first of all, didn't they beat Buffalo?
They beat Buffalo.
Yeah, they beat Buffalo.
Last I checked.
They beat Miami. And they played the 2 in Miami, I think, right? I think. I'm not sure.
2 is never, every game that 2 has started and finished, the Dolphins have won.
Right. So they okay. So then it couldn't have been. But they beat Miami. They beat Buffalo.
I'll look it up.
There's more. They beat New England. Didn't they beat everyone in our division?
They beat New England. Yeah, they beat
everyone in our division. We lost to New England twice. They beat New England. I mean, come on.
Even the Bears beat New England. That's our freaking kryptonite.
I know they're our kryptonite, but the point is, there's nothing to justify them not making. It's not just Jets bias. I mean, there's a lot of reasons. Tigo said 2 of the reasons. Yes, 9-2. They beat Buffalo. They beat New England.
They beat the Lions. They beat the Lions and they beat Washington, teams that were not supposed to be good at the time. But now those teams are turning into possible NFC playoff contenders.
Right. I mean, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying I'm a big Minnesota believer. I never any point thought Minnesota was even better than the Niners. Never. I'm a big Niners guy. So
we've heard.
So at no point did I think they were better than the Niners. I didn't. No point did I think they can compete with the Eagles. And no point did I think that they were better than Dallas. So I agree. I don't look at them as a normal 9-2 team. But at the same time, I don't expect for the Jets to be going into Minnesota. They're 9-2. They beat Buffalo. They beat Miami. They beat New England. They've beaten real teams and not be surprised that we're the underdog. I'm just happy that we're only a 3.5 point underdog. I don't feel insulted. I feel as if we're getting a little bit more respect.
Yeah, I think if this game was at the beginning of the season, it would have been maybe a 5.5 to 6.5 point game. So, no, I think Vegas is giving the Jets the attention and the credit that they deserve. I think the Jets surprised a few people by even beating the Bears to some level, like just their odds of the playoff. I mean, there were some websites where they're now projecting playoff teams every week, and the Jets jumped from 9th to 6th in 1 week because they beat the Bears. I'm like, we beat the Bears probably because of the reliable quarterbacking, that the quarterback performance jumped the way it did. I don't think it had anything to do with who they were playing because, again, I know it's a cliche, but you can only beat who's on your schedule. How many good Jets teams have we seen, for those of us who, around our age, in the 80s, the 90s, where the Jets would lose a big game to a crappy team towards the end of the season? I could give you a lot of examples. Losing to lousy Bears, Lions, Colts teams, Falcons teams, lots of bad losses in December and November. So the fact that the Jets beat the Bears, who they were supposed to beat, that's something that actually maybe they should be getting some credit for, that they did do what they had to do against the team that they were clearly better than.
Also, I want to say hello to Stud City. Glad to see him here. See him a lot in Green Beans Channel and all those shows. And Eminence, right? Am I saying it right? Yeah, Eminence
Yeah,
Finance
eminence
Community.
front,
Eminence
eminence front. It's a
Finance
put
Community.
on.
Bill should have won that game against the Vikings. I agree. But give the Vikings credit. They took advantage and won, and I'm glad they did. Yeah, I'm glad they did too. And you know what that game told me? That game told me, or it showed me, that even though they beat the Bills, I wasn't terrified of them. So I agree with what Eminence is saying. Like, I didn't feel that, oh my God, they beat the Bills in Buffalo. They're so good. Because something about that game, maybe Josh Allen was still hurt. The Bills were in a little midseason slump after losing to us, so they were vulnerable and beatable. But Minnesota did it in a very ugly way. Like, it wasn't the kind of way that makes you scared of the people. Like, they didn't beat them in a way that makes me scared of them. I really feel like we're in this game against the Vikings. I really do.
Yeah. And I want to address some guy. Some guy was asking about the Vikings pass rush and just anything about them. So here's what I'll tell you about them. So Zadarius Smith, number 55, is definitely their best pass rusher. And of course, then you have Danielle Hunter, number 99. Between the two of them, those are the two guys. They've got 16 and a half sacks, 78 tackles, and 28 tackles for loss. But Smith has been fighting through some knee issues over the last couple of weeks. And while he has continued to play, he has not been the dominant force that he was up until a couple of weeks ago. So as good, the Jets offensive line, it was great to see Max Mitchell back. I know Tigo will appreciate me saying that. But they faced the Bears pass rush that we talked about, couldn't get to the quarterback unless they were blitzing. And I think Mike White saw two pressures all game long. Going to be a little more challenging against Minnesota, but I'm feeling pretty good about where this offensive line is. And, having Herbig and Mitchell together on the right side, I mean, that is a huge, huge upgrade from Dan Feeding and Cedric O in the prior game against New England.
I no, I think what you're saying makes sense. And so I was thinking something. I had something. Damn, my wife distracted me, so now I totally forgot what I was gonna say. But look, I don't think John Nolte wrote this, and I don't think that any quarterback responds well to a good pass rush. So I think that without question,
I don't know who that helps, but
without question, I mean, I think, look, we're gonna live and die on pass rush. That's the key to our defense. It's not like we're built strong all over our defense. We have a good defensive line. Excellent defensive line, obviously,
right.
Great, and a great secondary. There's questions about our linebacker play is good. It's hot and cold. It's not always consistent, and our safety play has been questionable.
Yes.
We're being carried by our defensive line and our secondary. So if the defensive line doesn't show up, we got problems.
Yeah, but those are the two most important places to be great in the defense. Joe Douglas allocated resources where it was most important. And by having a great defensive line and great cornerbacks, it can make the rest of your defense look that much better. But Billy SBC makes a good point about the missed tackles. The Jets have missed, I think, 20 tackles in the last two games. I was not happy with the Jets defense at all on Sunday. I felt I was fine with the pass rush, but it felt similar against New England. I felt there were too many times when tackles were missed, and there were some receivers running open in the middle of the field. So that has to be figured out. But the missed tackles, that's what has to stop. The Jets were able to get away with it to an extent when they were facing subpar offenses. But now you're going against, think about this coming up, Minnesota, Buffalo, Detroit. You definitely can't overlook that offense. Miami at the end of the year. Seattle's been exposed. The Jets are going to be facing some great offenses coming up. There's not going to be any more also-rans when it comes to these offenses that they're facing. So these are the spots where the tackling's got to be shored up. And I got to tell you this. I was laughing. I was laughing, but I was happy at the same time. It was weird, like shaking my head and laughing when I was watching the video today of the Jets practicing fumble recovery drills during practice. I've never seen a drill like that where you literally spend time just trying to recover fumbles. I hope that they soaked all the footballs in a ton of water and did everything they could to make them as slick as possible. But I'm glad that the coaches recognize that this is something that they're not basing this on luck. They're actually saying, you know what, guys, this is something that we can do a lot better. We've only got 3 fumble takeaways all season. And if we can do that, it's going to make life that much easier for the offense. If we could take a few of these fumbles away. I mean, there's been so many times when the Jets there's like 2 Jets around the fumble, but somehow there's one arm and the other guy comes up with it. It is like a weekly occurrence. It happens at least once a week, and it's like some of our best players who are doing it. DJ Reed, Quan Alexander. I definitely remember DJ, but Carl Lawson. So I'm glad that they are taking the time to make this a point of focus. So let's see if it works come Sunday.
Right. I love it. Whoa. Okay.
Did the wife distract you again, Jeremy?
No. She's actually making me something to eat and won't tell me what it is.
Oh.
She's just assuring me that I'm gonna really like it. So I am a little excited about that, as you can imagine. But
good for you, bro.
I'm actually also trying to do something here. I'm trying to get something done.
All right. Well, don't worry, I got you.
But yeah. So anyway, let's get you a question because we got a lot of people talking, and let's get you something to react to. And
because I got 1 or 2 other.
Somebody did say, react to Super Leroy. What he's saying, because that's why I highlighted it.
Super
Leroy.
Leroy.
I agree with him. We got an issue with tackling.
Most definitely, and it's really been linebackers and safeties. The defensive line, I feel like, has done their job. I feel the cornerbacks are tackling very effectively, but you're really seeing it from Mosley, from Quincy Williams again. This is just the thing with Quincy, and I don't really know if he's a player that we could trust as a full-time starter going forward in future years. Now, we know players can get better; they could develop, but Quincy is very much an all or nothing linebacker. He'll make his impact plays, but when he blows a play, it hurts. And CJ, good as he is, as smart as he is, CJ is maybe the smartest player we have on our team. He is that smart. His leadership is that good. But his physical attributes, they don't necessarily keep up as well with his mental attributes. And we're seeing it again with LaMarcus Joyner has picked up his game, but he's had his moments. He'll have one bad play, then one good play. At this point, I feel that's kind of the Joyner case. Watching Jordan Whitehead, though, is really starting to frustrate me because I see how capable of a player he is, but he's got one tackle move. It goes like this. This is it. Just a shoulder block. He doesn't wrap up. He doesn't go down for the legs. He just tries to knock them down by doing like a Big John Studd or Andre the Giant shoulder block. Just have the guy run into you, and boom, down he goes. Jordan, it doesn't work that way. Maybe it worked in Tampa, but it doesn't work in New York.
Right.
So Jordan Whitehead, to me, just has to have a mental – he needs a reset. We talk about Zach needing a reset. Jordan needs an in-week reset on how to tackle because the last couple of weeks, his tackling technique has really, really fallen off. And it's frustrating because he's capable of being more than that. He really is, and I got to see better from Jordan Whitehead's tackling going forward.
I can't argue with any of that. I'm trying to bring. I got somebody to bring in. So I didn't want to disrupt the show too much while it was you were going. I wanted to wait for this little break. So let me get the music going. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a surprise guest. You're going to love this guest. Everybody loves this guest. He's one of the most beloved people in the Jets kingdom. I'm going to call it now. Kingdom. Because we're rising up in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Buffalo chicken wing eating. The 5th grade teaching. The wear the hat backwards just to be extra adorable wearing. The greatest YouTube content provider, not named Chaos, in the world! Jets fan.
What up?
What's up, my brother?
What's going on, guys?
Good to see you, BJF. Yes, the backwards hat does make you look adorable now that we have a new perspective on it.
Yeah, I trim my facial hair and everything for you guys, man. And nothing but the best. Nothing but the best for
honored.
Wednesday night.
Yeah, Jeremy and I, we always, I'm sure the Manscaped comes out, that it always comes out on Wednesday to make sure that we're in a good frame of mind. And anyway, I should get some of that liquid IV Green Bean talks about for the hydration. Actually, that actually might be a good idea. But so how you feeling this week? We're in the middle of Hump Day, coming off a good win against the team that we should have beaten. Now we head to a pretty tough place to play.
Yeah.
But if you match it up, player by player, position by position, in my opinion, it's definitely a team that the Jets can hold their own with and beat. So how confident are you feeling about this matchup coming up against Minnesota?
I think, well, first of all, I think there's some people who've said they're like a fraudulent 9-2, which to me doesn't really exist in the NFL. You know, you win 9 games, you win 9 games. I think they're the most balanced offense we've faced. They're good at quarterback. They're elite at running back. They're elite at receiver. They're good at tight end. They have good offensive tackles. That being said, I do think we match up pretty well with them because I think that the gap between our offense and their offense is smaller than the gap between our defense and their defense. I think that we have, when we tackle well, which I agree, and thank you for being one of the few people who will say, you know, that Jordan Whitehead has got a problem and this Jets defense has a tackling problem. This Jets defense is not elite unless we fix the tackling. Then if we can tackle well, we're a top 5 defense. So I'm feeling pretty confident. I don't think it's a must win. I think you really got to try to get one of these next 2. I am more confident going into Minnesota than going into Buffalo, honestly. I'm feeling pretty good about it. I think it's Kirk Cousins versus diet Kirk Cousins a little bit, man. It's kind of what I see in a little bit of Mike White. Physically limited, might throw a pick, but he can move the chains and score enough points. I'm really excited for this one, man. I got a really good feeling about Bam Knight heading into this game. I think Bam Knight might really make his mark and have like 100 yards from scrimmage. And I don't know. I think it's the Bam Knight coming out party personally, and I also have a hunch that Sauce Gardner is going to pick off Kirk Cousins. So I'm feeling pretty good, even though they're a good team.
I don't know. I'm kind of thinking. I haven't gotten all my bold predictions figured out yet, but I think this is going to be one of those interesting games where you need a guy to come through who maybe has been a good player, but hasn't gotten the attention. I could see like another MC2 pick like he had against Pittsburgh. I think Michael Carter II. I think I feel like he's really been getting overlooked, not necessarily from Jets fans, but from football fans around the country. I think MC2 is going to have a signature moment coming up pretty soon. I think he's right on the verge of stepping out. But the other thing, for those who may not be aware of this stat, the place where the Vikings are very vulnerable on offense is that interior offensive line. So you got left guard Ezra Cleveland, center Garrett Bradbury, and right guard Ed Ingram. They've allowed 100 pressures this year in the passing game. That is if I didn't need to say it, that is the worst in the league by far. And you know what that makes me think of? Quinnen Williams disrupting the pocket, being in Kirk Cousins' face all day. And if Sheldon Rankins is able to play, he's practicing this week. If he could come back for some snaps, that is going to make it that much easier for these big plays. It's going to make it that much harder for Cousins to get the ball to Justin Jefferson, because while they've been allowing pressures, maybe they haven't been facing a force like they're going to be seeing in number 95.
Wow. That's a good stat. Yeah, I mean, I think that's, especially with Rankins too, because if it was just Quinnen, they could just double and triple team him. But Rankins has been winning his one-on-ones all year. I think we've really sorely missed him in the middle of that defense, even against the run. I just think the drop off between him and Solomon Thomas has been huge, and you've noticed it.
It most definitely has. As much as I've liked Tanzel Smart, I mean, his snap timing, I could think of 3 or 4 plays over the last 2 games where I could have sworn he was going to get a penalty. It was just his timing was so good. But if Rankins comes back, Smart may not be able to play in this game. And to be honest, it'd be kind of a shame, because I got to tell you, I've been liking what I've seen from Mr. Smart in the last 2 games. So I hope we haven't seen the last of him.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, keep him around. It's the wise thing to do.
I've liked him in every aspect since camp started. Like, there's nothing this guy's done that's not to like. He played really well, all summer. So,
I just think he's on the deepest defensive line in the NFL. Honestly, I think there's a lot of teams where he's like their first rotational defensive lineman defensive tackle off the bench.
Easy. Yeah, I don't not. Yeah, not at all. And I think Sun City says it. I mean, I was talking about before, like our defensive line is to show up. They have to get home with 4. I mean, that's the way we're built. I mean, Saleh doesn't hide it. We don't even hide it from other teams. I mean, every press conference he'll say it, right? It's like it's come up a million times. He's like, in this defense, the way we work, the way we succeed is we get there with 4. It's just that simple. So if that doesn't happen, then our defense is not going to be effective or as effective. And we better find a different way to win, and be really good somewhere else, especially with, like I said, I was talking about, when we don't get there, then you see our linebackers and our safeties start to get exposed.
And you know what I really see is just how much it affects the mindset of other teams and also other teams' fans when the Jets defense gets home with only rushing 4 players. It's like, how are our offensive linemen getting beat by just 4 players consistently? It takes a toll on an offensive coordinator, on a quarterback's mindset. If you're on the road, that's what gets the fans really frustrated and riled up. And that's when you start to take the fans out of the game. That's one reason the Jets have been so good on the road, is when you have a defense like that, a pass rush like that, it really helps to take the other team out of the game. And I think this is a tailor-made recipe for that to happen again on Sunday. Because with that, and Christian Darrisaw, the left tackle, who's really, really good, he's still in concussion protocol. He may not play this game. And if he's out also, then you could start to talk about the tackle position, not just the interior side. If Darrisaw is out of the game, that offensive line is going to be in a whole heap of trouble.
Yeah. Just bring up a point before it was in my mind. I didn't get to say it. While I agree, there's no such thing as a bad 9-2, especially in the NFL. Winning 9 games is not an easy thing to do. But I will say, there's a lot of teams that, whether I'm not looking at records right now, that might not be 9-2 that scare me more. Yeah. So, I think the Eagles will still have only 1 game, but even if they had 2 losses, it doesn't matter. The Eagles would scare me a lot more. Dallas would scare me a lot more. Kansas City would scare me a lot more. So I can name a lot of teams, even the 49ers right now.
Yeah. Even Cincinnati or Baltimore, who we already lost to. I would rather face Minnesota than Cincinnati or Baltimore again, probably, honestly.
Exactly. And I would be less confident playing in San Francisco and beating the Niners than I am about the chances of beating the Vikings. So we could all agree on that. There is a feeling, forget putting record aside, of who, not that they're not good, because to win 9 games, you got to be good, but still there are a bunch of teams that we would feel less confident about playing.
Yeah. And Vegas feels that way too. We were only a 3-point underdog on the road. So that's pretty much a pick 'em on a neutral site.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people are being confident about Sauce Gardner. It's funny because they keep saying, Sauce, can he stop Justin Jefferson? Am I wrong when I'm saying this? Don't we play zone more than 70% of the time? Isn't it up to Minnesota if they're going to line up Justin Jefferson, where they're going to line him up? If they wanted to, they could line him up against Reed the whole game, right? If we're playing zone.
Yeah, well, even when we play cover 1, the thing is we don't move our corners. So they're going to be able to dictate what they want to do. I think they're going to tuck them in the slot a lot. I don't know. I'd freaking double team him. Remember when Calvin Johnson and that one team double teamed him like a gunner on a punt return down in the red zone? Man, I'd do that. 3rd down red zone. Man, put 2 bodies on him, because I do think that either Sauce or Reed, whichever one, can completely take away Thielen by themselves. I could put Sauce on Thielen and sleep like a baby. And then maybe you put Reed and Joyner and double team Jefferson and get home with 4. That to me would be kind of the recipe, like they did with Revis the second time around. They would put him on the second best guy and say, okay, you're done. And now we're going to take our second corner and a safety and double your number 1 guy. I really like that strategy a lot.
Especially you can get away with that with a guy like Reed, because it's not like Reed is statistically worse than Sauce, right?
No.
And Joyner is, obviously he is his strength is definitely coverage, as opposed to tackling and stopping the run.
I hope so. I do like the idea of that strategy with facing with facing those receivers. I think it could be quite effective. TJ Hawkinson hasn't quite gotten rolling, I think, for the Vikings offense like they would want him to. So, but that's still something that you have to watch because, if your wide receivers are facing outside corners that good, you're going to attack the middle of the field, or you'll try short passes to a Cook or to a Madison, or you're going to try those short passes because other teams can go to school on the Jets and see what other teams have done. And it seems like the most effective plays tend to be short plays to running backs, those short passes out wide, and let them beat the Jets linebackers and try to make them miss tackles and go down the field. So that's what they should. That's what these teams should be doing.
Yeah, I wonder about this comment, and I gotta say I'm with Billy on this. I get very frustrated because I'm like, is it? I mean, maybe it's harder than I think to coach or do. I don't know, but I never understand, especially when it's happening week after week, because the coaches must see it. Why aren't they teaching Sauce to turn his head? Like when you're running and the ball's clearly coming, the receiver's starting to go for it. Well, you gotta turn your head, don't you? Isn't he putting himself in incredible danger and increasing the chance of seeing a flag if he doesn't turn around? Like, why is it so hard to train cornerbacks to do that? Like, they have to turn around.
So I gotta be honest with you here. I feel like Sauce does turn his head. I just feel like he turns his head very early in the process. So I think we're usually watching like the second or two as the ball's coming down. I feel like the ball is descending. He will turn his head quickly, but there is a thing when you're running in a straight line, you have that speed, you have that momentum going. But if you're turning back, if you do that really late, it's going to slow you down. That limits your speed and you're more prone to giving up the catch. So I think Gardner's mentality may be, I know where this ball is going to go. I can track it. Let me get a quick look. And then with the speed that I have, I can close that ground on the receiver and I can force the breakup. So, yeah, I'm not so – I really don't think that Gardner has a problem with not turning his head. It might be that he does it a little bit too early.
Yeah, he does. There's a Brett Coleman, if you guys have a chance to watch it, Brett Coleman does a great film breakdown of Sauce, and you see the exact thing Watu is talking about. He finds the ball, and then he knows exactly how much time he has, and then he's just going to break it up. But I think the thing is, I think he could have a few easy interceptions if he does turn it around at the last second too, because even like the Claypool one where it's like the guy's jumping in the air with his hands up, like the ball is about to, like Sauce, if Sauce just goes like this, like the ball would go right to him. Now, he obviously knows what he's doing. He's a great corner. So I'm sure there's somebody who could explain it to us. Like technically, maybe if you do that, there's a chance you get beat. But not only the penalties, but it seems like if you there's so many times like with Bryce Hall, I'm like, you could have an easy pick if you just look back, like the ball's coming right there. I don't know.
He's right because he's the better athlete.
Yeah,
it's like if you turn around, like pretend you're the wide receiver, turn around and then do your closing speed, and you just go get the ball because you're better.
Just play like a wide receiver.
I think that Salah was even alluding to that because in one press conference he said he's so close, and in regards to turnovers. And I think that maybe I thought that's the sense that it was talking about. Like he's so close. And then he said, keep testing him, guys. And laughed. Like he made the request to the opposing teams, keep testing him. Like he wants, I want you to throw to this kid because he's going to start getting a lot of picks.
Well, did you see when there was like that thing going around on social media, his one penalty and catch he gave up to Chase Claypool was like making the rounds like, oh, he got exposed. And it's like, you're good when you're a rookie and you give up one catch to a fourth year wide receiver. And that's like the worst thing that's ever happened to you. It's like the irony of how big of a compliment that was great.
Yeah, people are going to be creating the videos on YouTube, catches that Sauce gave up, and they're going to be able to track each and every one, and it's going to be about 2 minutes long.
Yeah, it'll be like have you ever seen that somebody made a Jamal Adams interception highlight reel with the Jets, and it's like 6 seconds long?
As long as they include the time he snatched the ball right out of Daniel Jones's hands, I'm good with it.
I think that's technically a fumble. I don't know.
He got one for the
I know,
Seahawks.
But included anyway. It was beautiful.
He got one for the Seahawks, and it was like for the 5 that he dropped, and it was like right into his hands, and he literally went crazy, like on
Oh, my
Twitter,
gosh.
social media. He was acting like he was the greatest thing alive. But I'm telling you, the ball was thrown to him. And he was acting like he made this ridiculous play. The guy is just,
I mean, he was celebrating how Larry Brown should have celebrated after picking off Neil O'Donnell twice in the Super Bowl. Because Larry Brown is Larry Brown. I mean, the guy was basically a no-name, but he had his one glory moment in the Super Bowl. Jamal Adams was treating that moment like it was like the highlight of his football career. It's just, oh my gosh.
yeah.
But the sad thing is, for a while, he was the best player on the Jets for a couple of years. But
he was good. That he was like, I don't know
do?
what happened to him. Because he was a difference maker. Like I've never seen a safety that could blitz that well ever. He is almost going to break if he just can stay healthy for a couple of years. He'll have the most sacks by a defensive back in NFL history.
Self-proclaimed expert, but I will always respect him and give him his due because he knew about Max Mitchell. When you're trailing a guy, it's dangerous. That's how I do. You did that. Like he's like Tigo gets 2 years of he doesn't have to get anything right for 2 years
until Max Mitchell retires.
When you're trailing a guy, it's dangerous to turn and go for an interception.
He didn't want to activate Bam Knight, I don't think. So
quarterbacks are trained to first, but when Sauce is over a guy, you can keep his eyes on the quarterback and then jump around. He will focus on picks. Okay.
You know, there is an example of that. Do you remember the Joe Flacco game where he threw that bomb in Denver that just went over everybody's head when he was with the Ravens?
Oh, with the Raven.
Yeah, and there was this game like in 2012 where they were in prevent defense and he threw that ball over everyone's head and the corner kind of like turns and jumps and it goes over his hand and it like, so I could see what he's saying. I don't know. Sauce is doing fine. I guess we're nitpicking.
Yeah, no, we're nitpicking. My only thing is me and Green Bean panic and have a heart attack every time the ball's thrown to him, because we're always like, oh, like we're looking for the yellow flag, like because he's so in there. And I just want him to play the game, like in other words, yes, I understand he has to read his eyes, he does everything. I'm just saying at the last second, when you're there and you're mixing it up with the guy as the ball's coming, like you could see by his right, just kind of turn around.
I'm picturing Jeremy explaining this to Sauce Gardner and what Sauce Gardner's face would look like.
That is the funniest thing that you just said that, because you're right. That would be the most hysterical thing. Me, Jeremy Kravats, trying to explain to Sauce Gardner.
No, just like this, right when the ball's going.
Or even Tigo's explanation, PBU, he'd be like, what the hell are you talking about?
Can you imagine me sitting there trying to tell Sauce Gardner how to defend passes?
You know what? They could invite Jeremy. The Jets should invite you. You know how they have the kids doing the guest interviews where they host the interviews? We need you to host an interview segment. Can you imagine?
You just said everything you need to know about everybody that talks about football, all fans. Like that point, that is the perfect example, Buffalo. We're sitting here talking about what
it's the nature of what we do. We're pretending like we know what we're talking about.
We're sitting there acting like we know what they need to do.
Translation: if we were there, what would we do?
Right.
Oh, I would die as soon as one of those guys hit me. I think my body would be returned to its natural elements of the earth and then just be done.
Knobcraft, you got to cook me some pregame food. Then you could work your way up to the Jets.
Yeah, Knobcraft, we haven't had your cooking yet. We can't really respond to this.
Coach Griffin, what the hell are you talking about? It's so funny that you pointed that out. And then turn.
Jerry makes you feel better. Turn. You'd be the second greatest Coach K in the world.
I want to see Jeremy running that drill. Like all the defensive backs are like doing like going through tires, and it's like and turn, and they're all like and turn.
Like it'll be the Jets in the Super Bowl, and Sauce Gardner is playing perfect defense. He's right up on the guy, and suddenly Sauce Gardner in the Super Bowl kind of slows down and turns like this, and then gets beat for the touchdown, and we lose. And then in replays, they play it, and you see me on the sideline right at that moment yelling at him. And for some reason, that was the moment he picked to listen to me. Wow, Minnesota Jet fans going to the game. At least we'll have somebody there.
Fantastic. Well, one of my pals from the Virginia Jets fan group, Tim, who's like our photographer, he does a lot of the photos and stuff like that. He's one of the officers of the group. He's going to be there. So I do have one guy who's going to be going there. So.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. So I've been waiting for this game for a long time. I just get ripped for being a Jets fan for years. I need this victory. Yeah, at least look. At least you're going in. Can you imagine? You know, because it could have went this way this season, especially after the first few games. I was getting nervous it would when we were down by 10 to Pittsburgh, and the only win we had was against Cleveland, which was like the miracle gift, right? So it could have went that way, that you were going in like to this game, you know, us already being like way on, 4-7 or 3-8, and then you feel really bad. At least you're going in knowing that no matter how much they act like they're not afraid, believe me, they're afraid. They are nervous about this game. They're not thinking this is going to be easy.
No, it was getting to the point. I love going on the other team's websites and reading the chats, the Q&As, where the fans send in questions, and the shill beat reporter answers the questions and puts a positive spin on everything. Like the Jets have Eric Allen. Every team's got their own Eric Allen. But early on, I'd say up until maybe about the Green Bay game, probably through the Green Bay game and into the Denver game. Denver game's where it stopped. It'd be like, the Jets did this to us. The Jets. People were just in complete disbelief that they could ever
even
lose
the Browns,
to the
like they
New York
forgot
Jets.
who they were.
Oh yeah, Earl, but that was at the beginning of the season,
Yeah.
right? That was obvious. Yeah, but I'm talking about it kept going. Even with the Green Bay fans, I mean, they couldn't believe it. And then with Denver, it started to change because I think once the Jets beat the Packers and beat Aaron Rodgers, people started to think, wait a minute, this team may actually be for real. They're not the win that, when we were figuring out win-loss when the schedule came out, we figured Jets, that's a win. We could chalk that one up. They now realize that they can't do that anymore going forward. So we're earning respect from other teams around the league to the point where it's like, yeah, you guys are on your way up. You guys are pretty good. They don't like, how are you a Jets fan? You're not getting that. You're not getting that anymore, and I gotta tell you, that's a pretty damn good feeling.
Yeah, I think the Buffalo win was like kind of stamped that to where like there was nothing else that you could say to try to delegitimize the season.
Yep.
We have a shocking amount of people that we know going to this game.
Great.
Phenom is going to. A couple of beanbaggers are going. It makes sense. Iowa Jets fan goes. He does go every 4 years when they play Minnesota. He has said that. So he's going to his second game of the season. That's kind of cool. Phenom is there. And then Minnesota Jet fans there. And I wonder who the other beanbagger is. But you know who might be going? Joe Blewett.
Really? Okay.
Might be going. I think he may have said he's going to the Minnesota game.
Yeah, Joe Blewett is going. I only know that because I'm having him on my show next week. I haven't talked to him in a long time, but he did mention that in part of our very brief exchange. So,
Joe Blewett, he's a tremendously big fan of mine. He calls me for advice all the time.
Just like Sauce Gardner will one day.
I coach him on film and then tell him what to say, and he goes on and he does a great job doing it. So look at Buffalo's face. He's like, yeah, right.
I'm starting to call him out though for his made up football terms. I think he's trying to take some liberties. I'm like, Joe, come on.
We'll give us an example or one or two of those terms, of those Blewettisms.
Give us a Blewettism.
Oh, like a Labatt light block or a tiny nipples package, things like that.
The nipples defense, is that?
Yeah.
Oh my god,
dude!
Diabetes front, or whatever the hell he's talking about. I don't know.
Well, Yak didn't exist. Joe Blewett invented Yak, and we all believed it and bought into it, and it's become like a real part of our vocabulary to say Yak. It's not real.
Oh boy.
Oh man, that guy's funny. He's like he said, "I'll watch your channel." He watches my channel when I guarantee him there'll be hot sauce.
We have the people. They're running hard nip 3 high. I love it.
The milky liquor package.
Yeah, it's basically like all different, the annexation of Puerto Rico and just all different, extremes of that. That's what he says. Until he's trying to see what he can say with that. He put one on Twitter. I was like, all right, enough.
My wife's asking.
I was-
Bring.
That's that's what I was saying when I was talking about different games. And we're getting to the Houston Cleveland game. I said, Deshaun Watson's going to be back in the game. Will his talent rub off on his teammates?
I like this one. Garrett Wilson isn't the GOAT. He's the yak.
Oh, I'd rather be the yak than the goat. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I'd rather be the yak.
Everybody's a goat nowadays. It's the most overused term in sports right now. It's like, there's like 8 billion goats now. It's like, come on, but there can only be one yak, and that's Garrett Wilson.
I like it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we need to take a break with all the goat crap. We really do.
Everybody's so like we do that. We tend to do things as if every fan base tends to do things like we compare everybody to the same guy. We all think that like when we have a guy do well, it's he's the most elite future Hall of Famer. Like we all do that. All fans do that.
Every quarterback that has a bad game is the next Josh Allen.
Right. Exactly.
Perfect. He sucked. He's Josh Allen.
He threw 15 interceptions in the first half of his rookie year. Peyton Manning. Yeah. He's got a big enough forehead. He could do it.
Miami had their third stringer, like they were naming him Tom Brady before he even played. Yeah. And then he played against the Jets, and they all shut up, and they never bring his name up anymore.
Oh yeah, Skylar Thompson.
Yeah, they were calling him the next Tom Brady. He played that game against the Jets, and you will not see a Miami fan bring up that name ever again.
Just because he was drafted in the late in the draft, that automatically put him in contention. There was actually sorry to anybody offended by soccer, but I'll say it really quick. I was reading an article before the World Cup about previewing the different U.S. players, like how to explain like what their role is, and they said Walker Zimmerman, who's their center back, plays center in the defensive line, is basically their Tom Brady. And I said, oh, that means he's responsible for making sure the balls all have the correct air pressure before the games. that would be the Tom Brady of a soccer team. I mean, what else could it be?
Oh man, Tom, I'm liking to see him not go out on top. It's nice to see that.
Oh, it's beautiful. The sad part is that division is just so anemic.
I know.
I mean, they can't. The fact that this game, that every NFC it's like which team can suck less this week. But oh my goodness, that division is.
And what's so ridiculous about that is that traditionally, what's supposed to be. And I'm not, really, I shouldn't say it because in the AFC it wasn't the case either with the Patriots all those years. But what it was supposed to be in other sports, at least, when you have a great team in a division, typically what happens is the other teams in that division get really good because that's the bar, and you're in the division, and the only way you have hope is you have to get and catch up to that team in your division. So it's supposed to push you harder. You know what I mean? So the fact that Tampa's been so good and they were in a Super Bowl, you would think that the teams in their division would have been building and pushing and really getting good. But that whole freaking division is just a disaster.
Yeah, I mean, look at the AFC West. Like these teams were getting all these pass rushers, to counter all the quarterbacks that were coming in. Like Khalil Mack coming in, countering Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes, things like that. It's like the NFC South said, how much more can we just tear this down? Let's just try every reclamation project that we can. And I'll tell you what, I like Arthur Smith in Atlanta. I think he's a good coach. I just definitely don't think they have anywhere near enough talent. The Saints are pretty beat. My gosh, the talent just stinks all the way around. Those are like all rebuilding teams. Why can't the AFC have a division that bad?
Oh, it's hard. And the thing about Brady is, here's the thing that makes you want to throw up. Can Tom Brady beat Daniel Jones, Kirk Cousins, and Jalen Hurts in the playoffs? He can. He can go 7-11 and make it to the Super Bowl.
Well, I will say, I will always say, never write.
I have to go throw up. That'd be another Super Bowl I don't watch if that happens.
Yeah. That's when people are like, oh, he's going to come to the Jets next year. First of all, no. I
Oh,
wouldn't even
God.
want that.
Oh, my
I
God.
wouldn't even want
No.
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 But also, why would he want to come to a division with like Tua and Josh Allen, 2 MVP candidates, when he has an automatic division title down there and he's got no taxes? He's just chilling down there. 0% chance of that happening.
I'll tell you why. To get even more revenge on Belichick.
Yeah.
Why we don't know, but he would want to beat Belichick.
Yeah, I saw there's some rumor now today that he could return to the Patriots next year. I'm like, why would he want to do that? I don't know.
Who, Brady?
Yeah, it's like I think U Stadium put that out, and like JPA Football, like those quasi legitimate sources, like one step above me, but not not like Adam Schefter.
He's going to sign a 1-day contract with them when he retires.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but it'll still take less money on the 1 day, apparently, and that's what's going to get publicized. So
of course.
It'll take like $20 that day. AC, I like AC. My wife is dragging me to the Panthers-Lions game on Christmas Eve. Kill me.
Panthers. Ooh.
Wow, wait a second. What was that?
The Lions are pretty scrappy, man. I got to say.
They're a fun team.
I thought they put a pretty good effort out there against the Bills, and I was really bummed that I think the Bills kind of got a little lucky there on the end, honestly. But
I am very happy that we're seeing the Lions in our building. I'm glad we don't have to play them at Ford Field.
Yeah, I forgot that AC lives in North Carolina. He's in the Raleigh-Durham Triangle area. So,
well, he's got that Carolina blue there in his avatar there, so he's kind of got that thing going on. Panthers Lions, going to be a very blue building, to say the least. But yeah, I'm glad the Jets don't have to play that weekend. I'm glad their game's a couple of days prior to that. It's just weird when it's Christmas Eve or Christmas and got to deal with an NFL schedule. It's just, I don't know, it's just bizarre when that happens.
I'm actually going to be in a rented house in Jackson, California. It's in the middle of nowhere, but I know that they have TVs with internet. So I'm hoping that they have the Amazon app on one of those TVs because I can get the game on Amazon, right? It's a Thursday night game.
She's a Lions fan and he's a Jets fan. That is one suffering household. Wow.
Nothing but misery there.
In sickness and in health.
For rich or for Poe, but it's mostly Poe.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, when Brady retires, that division, when he retires again or is gone, think of that division. New Orleans is eventually going to have the Saints are going to have to pay off the cap thing, right? I mean,
they're always in cap hell. It seems like, man.
But it's going to catch up to them.
Yeah,
like there's going to be a point where they have to eventually take the hit. Like where they're going to have to cut everybody.
Yeah, like the Rams are going to have to do too eventually.
Right. So you're going to have the Saints in hell. You have Carolina that's just a mess, right? They're a constant mess. I don't know why everybody's laughing. Are you laughing at me? The Saints are a constant mess. Tampa's going to lose Brady. I mean, that division is going to be just
and the Bucs will still have Todd Bowles.
Yeah, who can't tell time.
Yeah, so that's like a -3 automatically on their win total for them.
I think the Atlanta Falcons have a good coach. They just don't have a quarterback.
I mean, they did draft Desmond, so
I can't believe they're not playing him. I guess they still feel like they're in the playoff mix. I guess with how bad their division is. So,
you know what? If they beat Washington, I would say they really are. But losing that game, I could see them snatching a spot away from I could have seen them taking it away from Washington or from the Giants, but Tampa Bay, I just think Tampa is by far the most talented team of the four. It's pretty hard.
They're in second. Oh wow, they're a half a game behind Tampa. Holy crap! So yeah, they got.
It doesn't seem like that's possible, but that's why that loss hurts so much. Losing to Washington,
that's crazy.
Wow,
well,
they
you know
really
what?
Need to win that game.
Good for them. I thought the Falcons were headed for a number 1 overall pick this year. I thought they were going to be the worst team in the NFL.
They got a great coach.
They do.
He's getting the most out of. It's their roster is not that much better than our roster last year, honestly.
Mm-hmm. And Kyle Pitts still doesn't get used in the offense. Now he's out for the season. It is amazing to me how Pitts has been such a disappointment. I'm not even saying it's all his fault, but he looked like I hate to use the word generational because that's another word that gets overused, but he looked like as good of a tight end weapon, the tight end that you would want to draw up if you were putting one into the league. He would run, catch, block like Kyle Pitts. But it has never happened for him. He's really been a name at this point. I mean, to think his only touchdown last year was against the Jets. He could kill Bryce Hall. If it wasn't for Kyle Pitts, Bryce Hall would still look like a pretty good quarterback. It's pretty amazing how that happened. But it seems like against everybody else, Pitts is just not what he was supposed to be.
It's weird. Yeah, I thought he thought he was going to reinvent the position. I mean, his measurables are like literally like Calvin Johnson. Like the height, the 40, all that. All right, gentlemen, I got to take off. Just want to pop on. Been too long since I've been on Wacky Wednesday, but I appreciate you having me on. We'll talk ball soon. Go Jets. Let's get this win, and I'll see you guys soon.
Thanks for joining us, brother.
See you later, brother.
So for people wondering what I'm eating, my wife made, and I predicted it because of the pots. She made pasta. They're asked me to show the food. She made pasta with broccoli, grated cheese, and oil and garlic.
Ooh, yeah.
So
that's a nice combo.
Yeah, oil and garlic with some broccoli.
Little Ioya.
A lot of grated cheese. I knew once I heard the pots that's what she was up to. I had a feeling that's what she was up to. So
cool. I was still having Thanksgiving leftovers tonight. Yeah, it's true. So I got hey, you know what's actually funny, Leroy? The Jets activated 11 position players. 10 of them caught a pass. The only one who didn't was Jeremy Ruckert. Now, he didn't have a ball thrown to him. But again, we have a good tight end group. We have a lot of position players. Ruckert's time will come. All right. But let's just not write him off too quickly. This is it's a redshirt year for him, most likely. But you know what? Maybe Ruckert doesn't have to do anything. And that's a good thing, because how many times did the Jets draft players in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round? There was no plan to bring them in to teach them, the basics of playing in the NFL. They just got plugged right in. They got overwhelmed, and they never had a chance to really develop. So they're bringing Ruckert along slowly. That's not a bad thing. It's just that the rest of this class just looks that productive.
Well, what happens is you went out, you signed Conklin, you signed Azuma, right? So you have 2 veteran guys that are really good, right? And they're very good blocking tight ends. And that's what Ruckert, not that he won't be a good receiving tight end, but that was his thing. We know he's a very good blocking tight end. So what they did was they had Cager up there. They've been using, Yeboah before he got hurt. It's very obvious they wanted a guy for special teams.
And that's Yeboah's job. Yeah,
right?
Yeboah is a special teams specialist.
And what does he and Cager have in common? They're both not blocking tight ends. They're more like the receiving tight ends. So they bring a little something different. I agree. I didn't expect Ruckert to be a factor this year. People are already panicking. I'm not saying use Super Leroy, but there are people panicking, saying, "Oh, Ruckert didn't work out." And I think that's so funny. It's like, it's not that he didn't work out. They're paying 2 veteran guys that there's no way Ruckert as a rookie is going to be better at them at doing the things they do well, which is mostly blocking. And Conklin's really good. He could slip into the slot. He's very good receiving. I mean, they're 2 very versatile, talented tight ends. And I think it's an advantage, right? I think you're right. Like he's being redshirted, and I think that's a good thing. He's getting a year of development. Yes, honey, it's very good.
Yeah, and the 3rd tight end is really for special teams purposes. It's really Brant Boyer's call on that 3rd tight end. And right now, Yeboah is a little bit more polished when it comes to doing those things, blocking, shedding blocks, and that's why he has played as many special team snaps before he got hurt, of course, as any other player on this team. Justin Hardy, Brandon Eccles, Yeboah was right there with them. So, so I'm not worried about Ruckert yet. Now, do I want to see a jump from year 1 to year 2? Yes, especially if maybe say CJ Uzomah does not come back year 2. Without knowing his contract off the top of my head, we could look it up. But maybe it's a situation where you could get out of that, and then next year your top 2 tight ends are Conklin and Ruckert, or you're having Yeboah and Ruckert compete for that 2nd spot. And there wouldn't be anything wrong with that in my eyes, because let's be honest, it wouldn't take Ruckert for Ruckert to be about as productive a tight end as Kyle Pitts has been.
Right. We also got to remember that
year 2 on the
okay. Well, Rucker's had a foot thing, so he missed a lot of camp, so he didn't have the opportunity like Clemens to Like he didn't have the opportunity Clemens did, for example, to get play time. Like Clemens was so good in the preseason, he played the whole camp, and they said, "Wow, this guy can contribute right away." Of course, we're bringing him in, and he was also delayed in the draft or drafted late because of his age. So there's a lot of things. There was a lot of factors there. When you think about it, Max Mitchell came in because of injuries. Otherwise, he never gets the chance to prove how good he is, right? It was injuries that they had to use him. So when you think about it, it's not really anything to be concerned about. They just simply don't have the need, and there's or they're not. There's no pressure to rush him along and throw him in there. He didn't play a lot in the preseason, so he didn't have a chance to wow them so much that they couldn't stay away from him. I just think it's totally normal, and I think you're right. I think next year he's going to have a full camp, and he's going to have every opportunity to show what he can do. Like I think he's just a question mark. We don't know. I think he was great in college, and I believe in him. And but I haven't lost any faith in him at all.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about him yet. Oh, by the way, some guy said I thought Lawrence Cager would be decent after watching him in preseason. I was wrong about that. I think Giants fans would disagree with this. I think Giants fans like Lawrence Cager quite a bit. He's now their starting tight end. He's caught a touchdown, and good for him. Cager's a good story. I got no ill will towards Lawrence Cager, or at least I won't until he has a good game against the Jets next season. But for right now, I have no ill will towards Cager. It's just he had a terrible, terrible moment in the first game, and he never ever recovered from it. So that is unfortunate.
Yep. So
Feed the Fat Rabbit. I haven't seen Feed the Fat Rabbit before.
I've seen him in other channels. I'm glad he decided to come join us. But Browns suck, buddy. Is there a Browns fan here? I don't know.
Oh, Super Leroy. It's better to be a Browns fan than it is to be a Jet or a Lion fan. I'm still mad about 86. So Leroy was just making the point that it's better to be a Browns fan than a Jets fan. I mean, at least the Jets didn't have to go away for a couple of years and move to another city.
Well, he's talking about the game, obviously, that we lost to them in '86.
Well,
but
that's different. But still,
but you got to look at it what have the Browns done in the last 25 years? I mean, 2009, 2010, we were there. 1998, 2003, we were good. What have the Browns done? I mean, I think it's better to be a Jets fan. I mean, the Browns have been, the last couple of years they put together a good roster, and they're still disappointing.
The Browns opened up, what the Browns did when they broke a long losing streak against us in Baker's debut, opened about 1 million cans of Bud Light. That's like their highlight is breaking like a 20 game, whatever it was, losing streak. So, bravo to them.
Yeah, I think if you've been a football fan for 25 years, I think it's worse to be a Browns fan than a Jets fan, without question.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. And the Browns, we've had some AFC Championship losses that hurt, but the Browns, man, oh man, they lost them at home. Late, between the drive and the fumble. That would be, our losses hurt, but at least they were on the road against teams that may have been better. So,
they had some good years. They had some good years before that. Like in the 80s, they did have the good years. They had the Bernie Kosar years. They had
that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, 86, 87. Yeah, those years.
Brian Schottenheimer was a good coach.
Marty.
Daddy.
Brian's dad, yeah.
Daddy Schottenheimer.
I had to mention that one, yeah.
Yeah. He was a great coach. Yeah. So they had some good years. But if you go back 25 years, like the last 25 years, much better to be a Jets fan.
Twisted, do the Browns have anything close to the butt fumble? The butt fumble is the most overhyped, useless play in the history of football. It's just that it happened on national TV on Thanksgiving, and it was against the Patriots. Okay. The Jets were going to get killed in that game anyway. I mean, we're talking like letting John Elway drive 95 yards down the field, to beat them. Then you have Ernest Biner fumbling the ball on the 1 yard line, to basically kill that game. And again, those games were in Cleveland. We didn't lose those games in MetLife Stadium. They were on the road. That hurts that much more.
They lost 2 years in a row with a fumble. The only reason that they're not remembered for that more is because then the Bills came along and lost 4 in a row, AFC Championship games, and kind of hid and protected the Browns from being known as the team that fumbled 2 years in a row to lose the chance to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, we should get a Browns fan on here, and we have a little back and forth. Oh, and we're having a little bit of the vino to go with it. Oh,
Oh
okay.
yeah, I didn't see that before. So my wife brought me a glass of wine with it. How nice was that? So I
Man,
mean,
you've been behaving lately.
but you got to think about it. It's like crazy, like to even think for a second, like that it'd be. I mean, even with Sanchez, when you say the butt fumble, yeah, but he also went to 2 AFC Championship games. I mean, you can't compare that to the run of Cleveland quarterbacks. I thought they
Oh
finally
my
got out
gosh.
of it. I thought they finally got out of it with Baker Mayfield, and then he turned out to be a disaster for them. Like, we'll see if he saves his career at any point, but it's kind of crazy for me. Like crazy to me. Like no, there's nothing more embarrassing than the Browns, because even now when they're supposed to be good and they have all this talent, they still find a way to stink.
They
Like,
do. I'll be interested to see what Watson does. Like, he hasn't played a game in close to 2 calendar years.
yeah, and he did not look good in the preseason.
No, it's going to be very interesting to see how he winds up playing. But the fact that he is playing against probably the worst team in the league, which is also his former team, that should be interesting. But if the Browns are smart, they're going to run against Houston, which has the worst run defense in football.
Yeah, I agree.
Feed the Fat Rabbit. Thanks for the super chat, man. We appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. I firmly believe we have a true path to beating Minnesota this weekend. I agree. Let's fucking go Jets. I'm hyped, boys.
Beat
Love
their
you.
offensive line, pound Cousins, cover the wide receivers well, and don't turn the ball over on offense. And pretty straight. Yeah, sounds pretty straightforward to me.
Feed the Rabbit. Thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it. We will keep grinding. We have no
Always grinding. And I'll tell you another thing. I'll tell you another place the Jets have the advantage in this game is kicking. Greg Zuerlein, we've seen what he can do even in adverse conditions. Greg Joseph is one of those. He is being treated by the Minnesota fans how we have been treating kickers for about the last 3 years. Joseph is only 16 for 21 on field goals. He's made 1 of 6 field goals for 50 yards and up, and that's kicking inside mostly. And even worse, 24 for 29 on extra points. They have a very unreliable kicking game. So if a game comes down to a field goal, I got a lot more confidence in Legatron than I do in Greg Joseph.
Yeah. Wow. So I don't know what the Sanchez hate is for. I see people say
it's just from Leroy. Yeah, Leroy just see
why the Sanchez hate? Why they hate?
Maybe Sanchez slept with his girlfriend. I don't know.
Dude, I don't know why you're so upset with Sanchez.
They call him a horrible pick.
He didn't work out. I'm not saying he did. I mean, but like, I don't know. He never did anything wrong though.
He was an pick. I'm not going to call him.
He didn't say horrible things though. He didn't say bad things. And it's hard to call him a bust. He played 4 years. He got us to the AFC Championship. Was he worth his pick? No, he wasn't worth the pick. But he wasn't a bust. Is someone you get no value out of. I mean, he got us to 2 AFC Championship games. So I don't know if he's a bust. I mean, we're getting really. That means we're saying anybody doesn't live up to their draft pick is a bust. I don't know.
I can't do that. I mean, Leonard Williams was not what we wanted to be, but I can't call him a bust. Like he was a useful NFL player. He was an okay player. He just wasn't he wasn't the impact player we wanted. That's a disappointment in my mind. Sanchez, the sad part is Sanchez is probably a top 5 quarterback in Jets history. Top 5, top 6.
He's not Leroy saying.
Well, now he's 6. Mike White has obviously passed him, right?
Leroy's saying he loves me now. Oh, he's saying he loves Jeremy Ruckert. No, he doesn't love me. He loves
Jeremy Ruckert.
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
Every time I talk about quarterbacks, Twisted's like, "Careful, Jeremy."
Why is that? Why do you have to be careful when talking about?
Because I'm very careful when I talk about Zach and Mike White because the fan base is so sensitive, and
which makes you a Zach Wilson fanboy, which I've been called just because I haven't declared him a bust already.
No, I don't even think it's that only. I think it's just he's joking because it's like he noticed that I get so careful because it's like everybody's so extreme. It's like they hate Mike White's guts and they want him to fail because they love Zach, or they hate Zach and they're calling him a bust and they're saying Mike White is going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. Like everybody's living on such extremes.
Now y'all wonder why I don't hang out in the chat.
Middle.
Now you all wonder why I don't hang out in the chats of these groups as much as I used to. It's because those takes drive me nuts sometimes. It is entertainment to an extent, but it's just like, yeah, I just get worried that like some of the people at the Jets, they get so hung up on what the fans say. It only takes one extreme fan to actually change their mind. It wouldn't actually shock me because you can't please the voice of the fans because the fans will say a million different things.
Hey, what do you add to the end of the sentence?
Our tight ends are very expensive. What? Are you talking about Leroy?
No, what would you add to the end of that sentence? What's our favorite joke?
That's what she said.
I couldn't help myself. I'm getting tired. Anyway, it is that time. We've been here 2 hours. We've done we've put in our time. I've got to finish this wine and eat the rest of this dinner with my wife. Look, I got some great appreciation to throw out to everybody tonight. I got some great support on a video I put out earlier in the day. It broke 2,000 views in 5 hours.
Wow.
I don't know what the hell I did right. Of course, Twisted gave me a hard time. He caught on right away. He's like, Jeremy, look at you trying to twist it and living like so he has such a perfect name because he calls out things that are twisted. He goes, I see what you did, Jeremy. You twisted it. You made it like it was going to be a negative article about the Jets, but you twisted it. Anyway, yeah, the thumbnail helped, man. I got a lot of people to click on it. And anyway, the video did good. We had great support tonight. We had a lot of people here and had a great support tonight. So I want to let everybody know I appreciate that. I appreciate all the love and support that we're getting. It's very much appreciated. Thank you. And why don't you tell them what you got going on, Watch 2K?
Yeah, I did. I'll be doing a Bam Knight video in a few minutes, making some of the points that we talked about tonight, but just give a little bit more perspective on what kind of a role he should play on this offense going forward, and is he the difference maker that the Jets are going to need on offense if they're going to, score enough to not only make the playoffs but possibly win this division. So I'll be doing that. Tomorrow I'll be doing my confidence picks, and we're doing pretty well. I am in the 95.7% bracket of making picks out of all players, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. And then we'll do, as the week goes on, we'll do the game preview. We'll do our 5 bold predictions for the game. After the game, the 3 plays you might not recall that affect the outcome of the game. And, I've done a couple of World Cup videos. Did a pretty big Rangers rant the other night. After the Rangers doubles game, I kind of went off on that a little bit. So, like I say, if something gets my attention, if something moves me, I'll be recording about it. So, thanks everybody for watching. I'm at 340 right now. Want to get to 400 by the end of the year. That's what I'm trying to get to, and then onward and upward, God willing. So, thanks everybody for watching. Appreciate
Let's
you.
get him there, guys. New York Sports Wikimedia. Let's get him to 400 by the end of the year and make his New Year's wish come true. And we'll get him there. We'll get him there, and on to over 1,000 sometime in 2023, right?
That would be pretty fantastic. That would
Okay.
be freaking fantastic.
So that being said, everybody, thank you, Grandizer, again for moderating the channel and for putting up all the links and doing what you do. I appreciate you. I do not know what I did to deserve you. I probably don't deserve you, Grandizer, but I know that I appreciate you for real. Like, I appreciate everything you're doing for this channel. Yeah, I just hope that gets across how much I appreciate you. You're awesome. And Aunt Gina just came in late at the end. We're going now, Aunt Gina, but I love you. Good to see you. Hope you'll be there Sunday with me and Green Bean. We'll see you tomorrow, probably tomorrow night on, when we're on Green Bean channel. But anyway, I see you there, Aunt Gina, and I see you too, Matthew Smith. Sorry that you guys weren't here. I understand that life is busy, but you could watch the replay, or you could check me and Adam out tomorrow. He'll be doing the trivia on Green Bean's channel on Thursday. Thick of it. I usually make an appearance near the end, And we'll be back on Sunday for the watch party. Me and Green Bean will be doing the Minnesota game. Come watch with us. It'll be at Green Bean Jets Fan or Jet Nation on YouTube. Thanks again, everybody, for coming. I'll leave you with this. We are live. We got Harry W. We got Richie from Jets Media, Matt O'Leary, Iowa Jets fan, who in the house. We got Dom C in the house. We got Steve, live, CEO of the Jet Lounge. So I knew I'd get rich on my channel. Let's see what's going on. Yeah, there we go. Woo.
Jets by $1 million today.
Yeah.